Hi there, it's Laura on the customer success team at Keela. You're here because you're ready to move forward with a donation import. That's great. Getting all your historical donation data into Keela is really important so that you can see your organization's incoming donations at a glance and use all our wonderful reporting tools to get insights into your donors as well as your organization as a whole. This is so important so you can make informed decisions. Before jumping into this video, we do recommend watching the Introduction to Imports and the Data Prep video first to give you a basic understanding of imports and data prep. We also recommend that you always import your contact data first. So check out the contact import video first and get that data into Keela before moving forward with donations. Let's get started. In this video, I'll be going through a sample donation import prep. So just follow along with your spreadsheet open and feel free to pause the video as you go through and make your changes. Don't forget to use the knowledge base for more information about the different fields in Keela that we're going to discuss in this video. And we also have some tips and tricks for imports there as well. If at any time you need some additional assistance, just reach out to us at support@keela.com and we'd be happy to give you a hand. Also, if you find that data imports just aren't for you or you've run low on time, you could always take advantage of our professional onboarding services so our team can complete the prep, clean up, and import at a fee. One less thing for you to worry about. Ready to go? Let's go jump into the spreadsheet. So whenever I get a new spreadsheet, what I like to do is take a look and I like to complete some of the easier steps first. And for me, that's deleting any empty columns in the spreadsheet. I know I can get rid of these right away because there's absolutely no data there. Now, empty columns probably isn't going to be common for you if you've been tracking all your donations in spreadsheets, but if you're coming from another CRM, it is quite common that you'll get all the fields exported with your data, but you don't necessarily need them all. So let's take a look at our spreadsheet. Okay, so here I am in our big example spreadsheet. So like I said, I'm going to go through and delete any empty columns. So I like to do this by using filters. So I add a filter in, and then I basically, whenever I don't see any data within this first view, I like to just check the filter and see if I have any data within that column. So you can see I didn't have any data with prefix. Organization name, I can't see any here, but there is some because I can see that from the filter. Currency, go ahead and get rid of that. And basically just go through your spreadsheet, get rid of everything that's blank. Nice, easy step to ease us in. Okay, now that I've gotten rid of all the easy stuff, everything that's empty, I want to go ahead and delete anything that I don't need. So anything that doesn't make sense to import into Keela. So sometimes this is contact data because that needs to be done through a contact import, or sometimes it's just data about maybe the last updated time within your last CRM. Would you like that data in Keela? If so, keep it. If you don't think that's going to be relevant going forward, you can go ahead and delete it now. So in the spreadsheet, informal letter salutation, looks like these are all zeros, so I probably don't need that. That's not relevant data. Last updated. So this would have been the last updated sort of timestamp within the last CRM. I don't need that in Keela anymore. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And it looks like we have all the contact data here. So email, first name, last name, org name. We do need to keep those, but we also have address information. So this is on the contact profile itself. It's not recorded on the transaction record. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those as well. Now, if you haven't done the contact import yet, it is really easy to do a contact import from from the donation spreadsheet. What you can do is you can just say copy and paste all the contact data, add it onto a new sheet, and then on this donation spreadsheet, just go ahead and delete it. So easy peasy to keep all that contact information and do that contact import afterwards, or sorry, should be doing it before. Okay, receipt number. Okay, we probably want to keep that. Total received. Everything else looks good. Recorded by. So who recorded the donation in the last CRM? Might not be relevant. If it isn't, you can go ahead and delete it. In our case, I'll just go ahead and keep it, and I'll show you what you can do with the data that you do want to keep. Now, this next step is where the knowledge base really comes in handy. We're going to be reviewing all the fields available for a transaction import and then cross-reference this with our spreadsheet to ensure all of our formatting for the individual cells matches Keela's requirements. So let's head over to the knowledge base for a quick overview, and then we'll get back to formatting the spreadsheet. Hopefully this knowledge base article already looks a little bit familiar to you, or at least the knowledge base itself. But here I am in the article about importing donations. So we went through the introduction, we went through gathering data, we went through that you need to import your contacts first. Auditing your data, yeah, we went through the deletions. One thing to know is that you do need one row per transaction, which if you're exporting from another CRM system, it will already be set up this way. But what we're going to be focusing on right now is step 4, which is comparing your data to Keela requirements. So what I'm going to do is skip right down to this chart. And this is basically telling you all the different fields that are available for imports on a donation record. So we have the field name in Keela. We have a description here, so what that field means, some formatting notes, and examples where it's relevant. So contact type. If you've imported your contacts into Keela first before you move forward with the donation records, you would have already imported the contact type. So you don't need to worry about this. If it's already a company record in Keela, once we match up the donation to that contact, you don't need to specify again what the contact type is. That's not going to change. If you didn't do a contact import before, make sure you just specify what are company donations. Anything else is going to be automatically uploaded as an individual donation. Origin ID. So if you had any origin IDs, again, when you did your contact import, say a string of numbers, that was a unique number to that specific contact, make sure you upload that with your donation data as well. Then Keela can easily track exactly what contact the donation needs to be under. If you don't have an origin ID, that's okay. We will check for the name and email, but obviously origin ID is really handy if you have people that maybe share a name or share an email. Okay, and then we have all the information about the contact themselves, their name as well as their email, so their identifiers. So this one's pretty straightforward. Similar to contact imports, you can use the full name if you'd like, not separated, or if you do have it separated out, that's always better, into first name, middle, and last. Email, that's pretty straightforward. Next field we have here is gift type. So this is the type of donation that you've received. So you can see it's different for each region that Keela is in. So for example, if I'm in the US, my choices are money, in-kind goods or services, in-kind vehicle, or securities. Whereas if I'm in Australia, my options are money, property, and securities. Date of gift. So this is exactly the date that you've received the donation. And you'll notice that Keela does accept many different formats for dates. But just make sure that your date is properly formatted. For example, we don't take day, day, month, month. It has to be month, month, day, day. So just make sure it's properly formatted. If you have some questions about how to switch your dates in your spreadsheet, feel free to send it over to us. Or I found when I'm learning Excel that Google is really handy. Going back up to our chart here, total amount of gift. So that's just the total amount of the donation. And formatting notes, you can do it with or without a currency sign or decimals. Transaction ID, this could be a receipt number or an internal reference number, a transaction number. Payment method. So we do have specific values that we can accept, and this is really important when it comes to filtering and reporting. So make sure whatever you have in that column matches exactly these accepted values. We'll go through that in the spreadsheet as well. You can also add a check or a check number, free form text. So it could be numbers, it could be a string of numbers and letters, anything like that. Completely up to you when it's free form text. We'll accept anything. Notes, again, free form text. So this is just additional information for your donation record. So if you find that some of your columns aren't matching up with some of these default Keela fields, you can add that information into notes on the transaction record. Estimated value of non-cash contribution. So this is the value for any non-monetary donations, so in-kind donations. So this is the estimated value, and very similar to the donation amount. You can have a currency sign or not. It's completely up to you. And you could also write a description for that non-cash contribution. So for example, you could have received an antique desk that was worth $500, and the gift type would have been in kind. Good faith estimate of material benefit received, a description of material benefit received. So this is basically the advantage or benefit to the donor. So sometimes you'll receive a donation from a contact, but they're getting a benefit to that donation. Say they received a hockey jersey in return, or maybe they've received tickets to a play, something like that. So you would put the value of, say, the tickets to the play and the description. So they received tickets to play ABC. This is really important because for a lot of regions, when we issue the tax receipt, we're going to show the total donation. We're going to show the benefit or advantage that that contact has received. And then the difference is what their the tax deductible amount is. Next up, we have recurring. So is this donation recurring? So this is only if you have this data, but essentially it's just for administrative tracking purposes. So we know that it's a recurring donation for those legacy donations. Now, if you want to record recurring donations going forward, make sure you click this link here. This is a whole article about moving recurring donations to Keela on a go forward basis. Receipted. So did that donor already receive a receipt for this donation? If you leave it blank, then all those donation transactions will have an option when you go into Keela that you can create a receipt for it. If you put a yes beside that transaction, you'll notice that that setting has disappeared upon the import. You won't be able to see the setting for that specific donation or transaction record because we know you've already submitted the receipt, so we don't want you to do it twice. And foreign exchange original amount and foreign exchange original currency. So if I'm in the US, but I received a donation in Canadian dollars, this is where I'd record that information in these columns. And dedication. So if the donation was dedicated to someone, you go ahead and put their name here. Campaign. So this is campaigns or events that resulted in your donation. And you could put that per donation. And these campaigns, when you import them, they will show up under the campaign section in Kila. Impact areas is basically the part of your organization that donors wanted to donate to. So, for example, plant a tree. They specifically wanted their money to go towards planting a tree. So that's what an impact area is. And you can learn a little bit more about campaigns and impact areas and the differences. If you're not quite sure yet, definitely recommend checking out some more resources in our knowledge base just to get a good understanding on those two before you move forward with the import. Source. So the source attributed to the donation. So this could be another organization. It could be, say, Canada Helps, anything like that. And last but not least, keywords. So this is like a tag for a donation. But donation records don't have tags. Those are specific to contacts. So donation records get keywords. So very similar to tags at a contact import, you do have to separate the different keywords by a semicolon. And you can use any keywords you'd like. So this is something that you might want to use for reporting. And I'm going to go into keywords a little bit more as we go into the data, but keywords with notes, this is a really good spot to record any data that isn't a default field within Kila. You can get that information into keywords and notes and make sure it's in there. And with keywords, it will be reportable. So now that we're aware of all the different fields that are available in Kila, I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet. And remember, this is all the data that's left over. So this is everything that I do want to import into Kila. And I'm going to reference this data with the different data requirements and make sure the formatting for each of the fields matches up perfectly. So let's get started. So here in this spreadsheet, I've got emails, I got first name and last name, as well as organization name. So I know that those were all included as acceptable fields in Kila. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I like to do is I like to highlight them and say agreed, just to say I'm ready to go and I don't have to look at this anymore. Donation currency. So remember, we did see some different requirements for currencies, but say I'm a US org and all the donation currency is in US, I can go ahead and get rid of that because Kila's going to automatically assume that all these donations that you're importing are in USD. If you did have any donations that were, say, in Canadian or any other currency, you could definitely go ahead and use those two other fields for currencies that we had discussed in the previous section to make sure that Kila knows that those were converted from another currency. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that because it's all USD and I'm going to import it to a US org. Receipt number. So if we go back to the Kila requirements, that table, if you remember, we did have a number that was acceptable. There was a transaction ID, it was called, which could be a transaction number or a receipt number. So I'm going to go ahead and call this transaction ID. Now, some organizations might have a receipt number as well as a transaction number. If you do, what I recommend doing is using the transaction number in the transaction ID field. And then you could use that receipt number. You could either put it in notes or you could put it in keywords. But since it's all unique, I think it's best suited best suited to be imported into the notes field. Total received. So if we remember, we saw a field that was called uh, gift total or something similar. So we could go ahead and I could just take a look at the formatting, make sure this all fits. And remember, we had read that they could have dollar signs, they could have decimals, or not. So everything is good here. It's all numbers. I'm going to go ahead and import that. Oh, and something just to be aware of while we're here, just make sure you look out for any negative numbers. Keela does not recognize negative numbers for donation imports. They're donations, so they should be positive numbers. So if you have any negative numbers, make sure you remove those from the donation import. Date received. So yeah, I think we call that the gift date. So that's another easy one. Something just to watch for, the formatting requirements. Remember, we have the different types of dates that you can import into Keela, the different formats. So what I would do is I would just check the date formats that we have and make sure it matches up with what you have. So let's quickly take a look here. Scrolling down. And here we go. So I'm just taking a look at the spreadsheet on my other screen. We had year, month, day, year, month, day. So that fits. Perfect. I get to go ahead and highlight that in green. Recorded by. So I don't remember seeing anything recorded by, so I'm going to go back. I would check the formatting requirements, and if I can't see anything with the field name or description that matches that, then I'm going to consider in my head that perhaps it should be added as either a keyword or it could be added as a note. Now, keywords, you can report on that going forward, but most likely you might not want to report on recorded by. Maybe this is just some old data that you would like to have at the handy if you're, say, just looking at a transaction record. If that's the case, I'm going to just go ahead. I don't have a notes field yet, so I'm going to go ahead and call that note. And I always like to push notes just to the end here because I usually add to it as I go. And I'm going to put that in yellow because this is something I'm going to want to just review before I go ahead with the import. It's not perfect yet because, like I said, we're probably going to add more to it. Impact area. So yep, we had exactly impact areas. So we could go ahead. One thing that you want to check with impact areas and campaigns is Keela takes this very literally. So make sure all your spelling matches up perfectly. So make sure that it's not annual subscription and you have another impact area called annual subscriptions, because Keela will create two different impact areas. So if it is just annual subscription, make sure everything is exact here. And it is, I just have 4 impact areas, so that makes it nice and easy for me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight that in the light green because that's ready to go. Pavement method. So again, this was a field that we had looked at. So remember I mentioned there was some very sort of strict formatting rules for this field due to reporting and filters. So let's find that pavement method formatting. So we could have check, credit card, online via Stripe, online via PayPal, or other. So let's see what we have in our spreadsheet. Cash, check, check, credit card, check, that was one. Interact, I don't think Interact was one. Nope. So again, this is data that we don't accept into our default fields, but that doesn't mean you can't retain that information in Keela. So I can either add that into the note, payment via check, or I could add that to a keyword. Now, if you want to report on transactions that were previously accepted by Interact, I recommend using a keyword. So I didn't have a keyword column yet, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. Add Interact. Now, payment method, I need to get rid of the Interact because we will ignore that. But another option was other. So I'm going to go ahead and add other here. And then for any payments that are other, you can always, I guess, check the keywords to see exactly what the payment method was. Okay, let's see what else we have. Online, other, that's okay. PayPal. Okay, so we did have an option that's for PayPal, but if you remember, it was online via PayPal. So just a real quick change there, just to make sure it matches up perfectly for reporting. And this is actually the same with Stripe. So I'm just going to grab all the Stripe ones, online via Stripe. There we go. Okay, so those are all looking good. The last two, security. So this is a good example of some spelling errors. It always happens. It happens to me. It happens to everyone. We're all moving very quickly in our lives, so little errors happen. But anyhow, what you want to do is securities wasn't a payment method, but hopefully this rings a bell. Securities was a gift type. So we don't actually have a column yet for gift type in Keela, and you probably won't have that in your spreadsheet either. So what I do recommend doing is adding a column for gift type and specifying whether your donations are money, property, securities, in kind, or whatever your options are for your region. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. Let's add that here. Gift type. And we could add securities if that is an option for my region. There we go, payment method. So I'm just going to go ahead and update that to other, and then we're going to know it's a security because of the gift type column. And there we go. So now our payment method matches perfectly with Keela. So now that we've figured that out, we've added the new gift type column, we probably want to fill out the rest of that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of the transactions that are blank. They don't have, Giphy type. Sorry, all the transactions that don't have a gift type yet. And most likely a lot of them are going to be cash or what we call money. So I'm going to go ahead and update all of those. But just be careful too that none of these are in kind. You will know your data best, but I know none of mine were in kind. If you do have any in kind, then make sure you mark it as such, and then you can use that description to say exactly what the in kind donation was. And there we go. So this should be good. I'm going to just move it over here. The payment method, that looks good. We've completed the formatting for that. Dedicated to. So we did have that as an option. I remember it was just a default text column, so you can write whatever you like. And I just have names. So Deborah and Joseph. Everything looks good there. And now advantages. So we chatted about this briefly. So there's the advantage amount and then the actual advantage description. So I'm going to just filter on this just so we can see a summary. So you can see that all of these contacts donated $100 because that was their gift total, and they had an advantage of $50. That's because in the description here, let's update that, they received a hockey jersey that was worth $50. Some of them received a dinner voucher. Okay, so that one's good to go. And Canada Helps. So was something donated via Canada Helps? So this might be a good example of where you could use source. The source of the donation was from Canada Helps. So I'm going to update this to source. And if you remember, let's take a look at source. It's a free form text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update them to, if it was a yes for Canada Helps, I'm just going to change the yes to Canada Helps. So whenever you're doing any filtering or reporting, you'll be able to report on all the donations with the source of Canada Helps. That one is now good to go. And last but not least, we have keywords. So we had the interact, and keywords is whatever you'd like it to be. But if you're combining keywords, say maybe instead of using Canada Helps as a source, you wanted to put that in keywords, you could definitely do that. And if you have more than one keyword for a single transaction, just put that semicolon in, and then we'll know it's two keywords rather than one long keyword. So that one now is ready to go. And last but not least, we have the note. So just be careful. This is different than description for in kind. It's different than the description for any advantages. Oops. This is just a general note for any type of donation. So you could put, even if I wanted to, I could put entered by Lucas. I could go ahead and update that. Scroll down for all my Lucas. Actually, you know what would be better if I filtered on it first. Let's do that. So it's very clear why Lucas is in the notes. It's because it was entered by Lucas. Same thing with Anna. Entered by Anna. And you can add whatever other notes you'd like to include. So sometimes you get a personal note from your donors when they provide you a donation, such as keep up the great work. You could put that in quotation so you know donor, you can add it as donor description or something like that. So this is just one giant text field. So you could add as much as you'd like. You can separate the different notes by semicolons if you'd like. You could do it by periods, whatever works for you in notes. The notes is your oyster. So it's completely up to you how you want to group that all. But if you do have a bunch of different notes, you notice that you have all sorts of columns that you'd like to include in notes. What you could do is you could use a really handy formula to combine all the different columns together. So definitely check that out on Google on how you can combine things. That's going to be really handy if you get a bunch of notes or a bunch of keywords. If you need some help with that too, reach out to us on the customer success team, so support@keela.com, and we'd be happy to give you a hand. We do lots of these spreadsheets, so we've learned all the formulas and we're pretty quick at it now, so we'd be happy to teach you. Anyhow, this is it for that data cleanup. So once you've finished the initial formatting according to the Keela requirements, you've taken a final look at it, you know everything's looking good. For me, I know once everything is green, then I can go ahead and do the import into the Keela system. This is when we know the hard work is done. The data prep is always the hardest work, but it's totally worth it once you get it into the Keela system, because all this data gives you more power to make great decisions based on your organization's history, as well as the individual history of each of your donors. Anyhow, let me know if you have any questions. You can always reach out to us at support@keela.com, and we are so happy to help. Thank you so much. Bye.